government questions as quickly as possible. Ms. Burchell?
Oh, thank you. PS, a number of our schools remain shelters, and the principals and the boards, they've been calling to ask what's the state's plan to getting them back to their full focus on dealing with education of our children. At the same time, constituents are calling MPs' offices, wondering why they're being removed or asked to leave shelters that are closer to their homes and being sent halfway across the parish to other shelters. We wonder if there is a framework, a policy framework guiding the relocation of persons. What they complain about is that they're trying, for example, to stay at the shelters that are close to their homes at nights and use the daytime to go and try to fix up back their houses or to send their kids to schools, but they're being told that they must relocate to far distances from their homes. I wonder if there's a framework that would better look at the relocation of these citizens until they can ably get themselves back up. And the other thing is, whose responsibility is it to help these people resettle? And what portion of your budget is apportioned to this? Because MPs are being called by schools to ask about building homes to take these people out of the schools and back into their homes. Whose responsibility is it? And if it is yours, what are you doing to help them get back to normalcy?
Yes.
All right, so thank you, member. Just to note, as you would have heard announced by the Ministry of Education, all schools have been reopened. Notwithstanding, there are a few that still accommodate some persons. And so there are some specific ones that we are zeroing on. As to those ones that you have referred to, that persons were asked to relocate, I'm not sure which are the ones you're talking about, but any person who has been asked to relocate to an alternative location, it was in a bid to ensure that the learning of children continued because perhaps there was no other alternative within the school compound itself. And we always ask persons, if they are not willing, then we try our best to work through some arrangement with them, whether with other families elsewhere or other persons in the community or a specified area within the school itself. So that is the general principle. Specifically, because you asked several questions, including budget. So specifically, we are targeting each location, but two remain a focus, Petersfield, which you'd have heard Minister Mackenzie spoke last week as to what we are doing. So we are presently rolling out an initiative with the Food for the Poor and MLSS and a team of stakeholders to include ARTPEM to build out an area in Westmoreland so that everybody there can be relocated. So as we speak, that MOU is being finalized so that we can move forward with it. And the persons have already been sensitized, land has already been cleared. With respect to St. Elizabeth, where I know we had asked persons to go to the Waterloo location, persons willingly went. So I did not get any feedback that persons had a challenge. So this is why, it's St. James you're speaking of specifically?
South St. James in particular.
Okay. So I am sure the mayor, St. James, would have had the relevant consultations as well to ensure that persons were comfortable. And what I can say, the team in St. James has worked very hard. Their own entity. Just bear with me a little, member. I have to give them little credit, because guess what? They lost their windows and doors and all of that, and they were out there in the middle of Melissa. Yes. So I want to give them that credit. So they would have had the relevant consultations to ensure that persons were comfortably relocated to any other location that was deemed suitable. But usually the protocol is, if you have to relocate, we usually ask family members, are you able to accommodate, or community members, are you able to accommodate? So that is the first principle, to ensure that persons do not feel as displaced as some may feel.
Okay, so Piers, I'm going to ask you if you could pay a little bit of attention to the St. James cases. We have people from Cambridge, for example, who have been asked to relocate to Maroon Town. That's 2 lifetimes away, from their daily lives and their social and education for their children as well. I understand that the bigger projects will require more concerted effort, and you are doing that, as you said, with Petersfield. But contemplate what will happen where you have 2 people at Bicker State Primary right now, for example, who are asking me to build houses. We have a lot of MPs, have a lot of persons coming to them to say, what do we do with you? When I get those calls, do I call you? Will you be preparing homes for them to get out of the schools?
Also, member, we are also part of a national team that will be looking on the dispensation of shelters nationally. So as we speak, a meeting is being organized with all our parish disaster coordinators and that relevant ministry, so that information, I'll ensure it gets into the team so that the representation can be made. But the CEO of St. James is here. I'm not sure if she would like to comment any further than what I have said.
As it relates to St. James, good morning, members. As it relates to St. James, I would say we've done our best as it relates to shelters, and Member Burchell would be aware of that too. We've done our utmost best. What we had to do, because of schools needed to be opened, we had to identify, because we can only use government facilities for shelters. So we had to identify community centers that were in proper condition, having bathroom and all of that, to house persons. In some instances, like Member Burchell has said, we can't find a shelter that is close enough, and the schools need to be reopened. So we have spoken to persons, and that is why our shelters have been reduced from 426 when we just started to 33. Most schools only have like 1 to 3 persons. We have 2 schools that has 7.
I'm sorry, just press your button again.
Thank you. Commander, perhaps this is for you or Mrs. Murray. The Prime Minister had indicated that the relief that they've put together will fall short for some people, and that they're encouraging persons to try to go ahead and do what they can in the meantime, and that you've assessed about 90,000 households as having been damaged either totally or somewhat, and 65,000 of those have already been assessed, whether self-assessment or volunteers or the government has gone in to collect the data. My question is, for those constituencies that are not even 20% of those who've lost homes, they have not yet been added to your system. What measures will you help us to implement to get the data collected so that they can factor into this relief project? 1. 2, for those MPs who are being bombarded by questions from constituents about when housing grants will become available to them, where can we access the data so we can guide them, those who've already self-reported or were assessed, to say in another month or 2? We've heard announcements about some parishes, some special cases about housing projects that have already started. But where can other MPs tap into that plan, whether through the NEOC or elsewhere, so we can guide our people? They can know that within a month you might hear something from the government about your housing development. Because I want it to be clear to all constituents that MPs are not responsible for the rebuilding or the assistance for the full rebuild of their homes that have been damaged. And so we want the data to get that to them. Thank you.
Morning again, member. Thanks for the question. The project to complete the assessments, I would rather defer to my colleagues at the MLSS, because they are the ones treating with that, and we're assisting them in getting that underway. The current figures for their assessments I don't have in hand, but I do believe we might be targeting, they'll speak to it, they'll be targeting that. And also, as it concerns the rebuild, the phase of it, I'll also defer to my colleagues at MLSS.
For efficiency, since we have the MLSS right here, rather than wait for us to get to them, anybody wishes to just respond to the question?
Separate one.
Or the data collection? You want to repeat the question for MLSS?
Where can we get the data? Where can MPs get the data to say how many persons have been entered into your system as needing housing support to rebuild after Hurricane Melissa? And where can they be updated on when housing support will become available to them?
Good morning. Sorry. Good morning.
Morning.
All right. So in terms of the assessments, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is directly responsible for that. And we have our social workers on the ground. We also have bolstered the team. We have over 700 volunteers that are assisting the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Those volunteers would have been trained utilizing what we call the JH Diner form and methodology, which is the Jamaica Household Damage Impact Needs Assessment. And so we would have gotten information from some of the MPs, for example, in terms of where there are areas that are not yet covered, and we have been ramping up the teams to get that information. So in terms of the numbers, we actually have almost 70,000 assessments that have been done to date. We have it disaggregated. We have it disaggregated by parish. In the information I provided to the House, that would have been at January 9. But you're interested in what? Saints, or on a constituency basis, or we will have to mine that data, but we have it on a parish basis for sure. No, we have presented it. We have presented it here on a parish basis, but we can provide it from the constituency basis to you all, and by communities as well. Okay.